be over and done with the what some have said are pre-apartheid, pre-colonial complications that really shouldn't exist with the Bill of Rights that we have. We're going to take a quick break.
Dad, can we please have some dessert? Please!
Can't afford it.
Perhaps you can, because if Assurance can't save you money on your car insurance, ask them for 500 Rand. Being claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years, tell them you want 1,500 Rand.
Ice cream's all around.
Yay! SMS CAR to 44211 or call 08600 60,000. Savings or cash, you always get something out.
This whole music game is like a challenge.
Mamso, Wanyana.
This whole music game is like a challenge. Sure, it's not much cheerleader. I look she not
Nazo. If you like nice things at a nice price, you'll love Nazo meals.
Nazo.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And welcome back. We continue discussing the plight of higher education in South Africa. This as the Department of Higher Education faces criticism from some quarters after saying that it doesn't have enough money for some NSFAS beneficiaries. But earlier on, we spoke to the higher education spokesperson, Ishmael Munisi, saying that the minister, Dr. Blade Nzimande, will address the nation tomorrow, but that there was an engagement with a cabinet on some of the funds that would have ordinarily have been there, but because of COVID and the expenditure that government has seen, and of course the increasing number of needy students, they had run short of funds, but saying that following those discussions, an important announcement will be made tomorrow, saying that they have managed to find a way. What is that way? We'll find out. But let's speak now with Mugwena Maluleke, who is the SADTU's General Secretary, to talk to us about what the future is, not only for higher education, but education in general in the country. The education sector has seen a cut in the budget in the 2021 to 2024 financial years. Mr. Maluleke, firstly, let's start with the events at Wits University or around Wits University, which really embody what has been a gripe for those after the budget was announced, the expenditure cuts for the sector. What are your thoughts?
Good evening, Sapiso, and good evening to your viewers at home, and thank you for having us indeed. The question is very important. First, we would want to really condemn the use of excessive force by the security enforcement agencies, being the South African Police Services. We believe that there must be other ways of really controlling protest rather than really using live ammunition or even that excessive force. The issue of education is very critical for our country and our economy that is very struggling, and obviously the stubbornness of the legacy of apartheid in terms of infrastructure, in terms of providing financial support to the students who basically are coming from the poor background. Now, what's happening in Wits is not only in Wits. One thing that we should be able to understand and appreciate is that the universities are not able to proactively plan. And then they are also to blame in these particular instances, because those universities that have always been able to engage have had a long-term plan, rather than to be always relying on the fact that when the schools or the universities are reopening, then they start engaging the students. They don't have to. They have to engage the student movement throughout and plan and make sure that there are agreements that are reached amongst themselves as stakeholders there, and involve government in terms of of what are the resources that they would need and so forth. But really, it has always been that, look, they throw their hands in the air and say the government that, well, of course, the government has to blame, because we cannot have a situation where we knew that many parents are going to lose their jobs because of COVID.
So this is what I want to talk about. So government saying earlier on during the budget speech via the Treasury, the minister saying that it is looking at boosting funding for education. But as we've seen in the higher education sector, they seem to be singing very different tunes. The students are saying that there was no communication on the number of students that qualify that would even be able to get relief aid. Government is saying, but of course we're caught off guard because we couldn't anticipate COVID and its effects. How could government have done that in the budget that it tabled this year?
Well, I think that is an excuse that we all know that is informed by the fact that the government has decided to adopt an austerity-driven budget, where the budget is informed by cuts throughout. I mean, they would want to cut almost about 320 billion in the budget. And so, secondly, it is that the cabinet and the entire government, in terms of the parliament, really do not want to put education at the center of economic recovery in terms of providing resources that are needed by the higher education as well as the basic education, because as long as they don't understand the relationship between education, whether it's basic and higher education, in terms of the role that it plays in the development and the growth of the economy, they will adopt a budget that begins to define and characterize education as an expense instead of an investment that will then be able to enable us to make sure that our economy grow and we are able to create employment, and therefore people should be. They should have known 2021 is not the same as 2020, when we did not know how this particular virus is going to behave. So 2021, the planning should have been very clear that there are parents who would have been able to pay and they are not going to be able to pay because they've lost their jobs or they've taken a cut in the salaries. So therefore, government shouldn't have adopted an austerity-driven budget and should have at least prioritized education, because that is a way of investing in the economy. And of course, this symbiotic relationship is always something that I think that the government doesn't understand, that education is key for our economic recovery. And so we don't accept that they could not anticipate that. So what we need looking forward is that there must be an increase in the NAFSA's assistance, but also is that the universities must be able to enter into agreement with the student in ensuring that no student is excluded, even if they cannot, so that they agree how they can assist those particular students that have been at the university, those that have got debts and so forth. Like one university has already done that. And I think that we should commend the University of Cape Town for having been one of the first universities to say, look, we are writing off everything, will come to those things into the future. Please come back to the university. And that's what the leadership we need in our universities today and in the Department of Higher Education and Training, and in particular the entire cabinet. We're looking forward for that particular announcements tomorrow. However, this is lack of planning and lack of forward looking, and this is going to create more violence, which we don't believe as SADTU that violence is going to bring us the results that we need in the education situation.
Thank you very much, and of course we will continue that discussion, those very important points that you raised, which some have already highlighted, the funding criteria, the transparency thereof, and of course we'll also find out about that issue that you raised, how universities can use their independence to remedy the situation. That's all coming up. Mugwena Maluleke is SADTU's General Secretary.